Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope you hear me well, and thank you for joining us on a Friday morning. We are honored to have all of you in the audience. We're about 200 people today here. Today's event is delivered by the Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice project. It's an initiative of the Processes for Planet Partnership, aiming at circularity and climate neutrality of the European process industries. I am Maria Loloni. I work for one of the project partners, and I will be your host for today. I work for EIT Climate-KIC, and I am leading our industrial symbiosis and maritime innovation programs. This event is actually the first open event we are organizing for you, the community of practice on industrial urban symbiosis and regional circular economy. And we have designed it to inform ourselves about these topics and also to hear from practitioners on the ground, but most importantly, to hear from you, your experiences, your wishes, what you're looking forward to have in order to support yourselves and your colleagues and your collaborators in this transition. Before we start, we will be starting in a few minutes. So before we start with the presentations, just to let you know that we have today's event has two sections. The first section is presentations, and this part will be recorded. We will share the recording and the slides afterwards with you, so don't worry about those. And please try to keep your microphone muted so we ensure a very good recording and experience for everyone. If at any point during the event you need help or you have questions for the speakers, please use the chat, the Zoom chat box. So let's see our agenda for today. So the event has two parts, as I mentioned. So the first part is mostly presentations. So it's the first 1.5 hours. We're going to hear from the European Commission. We're going to hear from practitioners on the ground, from A.SPIRE, the European Association for Process Industries. And the first part of the day finishes with the Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice project, a detailed presentation about this project and how we have been working so far to support you, the practitioners on the ground and the whole community of practice, and what we plan for the future. Then we go into a short break of 5 minutes. And we close. The second part of the event is in breakout rooms. So that's where we're going to be discussing the challenges we are facing and what we can do essentially in order to bring industrial urban symbiosis forward. So for now, that's the agenda for today. And before we start with presentations, let's see who's in this virtual room. We are quite a few people, so 213 participants I see now. So we have prepared a short Menti for you in order to see who we are today. So you will see shortly on your screens a link for Mentimeter. It's an interactive tool. Please go to this link and insert the Menti code. What you see on screen, this 8-digit number is the Menti code. So try www.menti.com, insert the code, and you will already see this question: which country are you joining us from? A few people are there already. So some visitors from Germany in the room, from the Netherlands, Portugal, Greece is here too. Norway here, beautiful. Lithuania, quite a few people from Belgium. Spain is competing right now with Belgium, Germany, and Spain are most of our participants in the Netherlands right now. From Italy, from Poland, beautiful Finland, I see Austria, Iceland, from Belfast in Ireland. Thank you very, very much. And I also see in the chat, actually, some countries coming here too. So people from, yeah, Belgium, Germany, Norway, beautiful. Czech Republic, so UK, excellent. So it seems that we have a very diverse audience, a lot of European countries here today, participants from European countries. Thank you very much. You can keep filling the Mentimeter. If you have reached the link a bit later, you can keep typing on this question. We can move to the next one, to the next question. So how would you describe your organization? So, non-profit organizations, NGOs in the room, a few businesses already, a lot of businesses, a lot of cities and regions, a lot of universities, non-profits, industrial parks also here today, European institutions. Yeah, beautiful. Associations, of course, of cities, of industry, everyone. Excellent. So a lot of businesses, universities, non-profits, and city representatives for today. Thank you very much, and keep on going. Yes, keep on going. It's beautiful to see the result. Next question: how advanced is your organization in industrial-urban symbiosis? Could be implementation, could also be knowledge. If you're a university, you can consider it also as knowledge, for example. Okay. So we observe already, okay, there is a mix of organizations who have just started and a lot of organizations also who are very experienced working on the topic for more than 10 years. And there is a lot in between, actually. A lot of us have had experiences from 1 year to 10 years in between there. That's the majority, essentially, this in between 1 and 10 years. Beautiful. And we see also in the chat some responses, yeah, more than 10 years and now. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Very mixed audience. Beautiful. Beautiful. And let's go to the last question, perhaps, on the Menti. What are your aspirations for today's event? This is text. You can type anything you like why are you here today, essentially? What are your aspirations? What are you here to listen to learn, expect, perhaps, hope to learn? Thank you. A lot of people are here actually to learn new information about EU projects, to share their experiences, beautiful, to network, to listen to others, okay, studies. Listen and learning appearing a lot, beautifully. Learning about projects, about other cases, about what is happening on the ground, get connected, quite a few people. Thank you very much. Actually, this is part of exactly what we're going to do today in sequence. Beautiful. Let's give it a couple more seconds for this. Legislation, beautiful. So nice. Thank you very, very much. So that's the agenda we have planned for you today. So it includes all these elements. So I hope we reach your expectations with what we have designed. Thank you very much. So perhaps we can move now to the next, to the first speaker, essentially. Our first speaker. We have Peter Dröll, who's our keynote speaker. I need to see, is Peter on the line already? Because yes, Peter, perfect. Because Peter informed that he had to come in and out at the start of the event because of technical issues. Peter is back, so excellent. So welcome, Peter. And our keynote speaker, as I said, is Peter Dröll. Peter Dröll is a director of prosperity at the DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission. He has worked for the Commission for more than 20 years and also acted as a cabinet member for Commissioners Verheugen and Potocnik in the past. In his current position, Peter is working on industrial research and innovation agendas on business intelligence and knowledge valorization policies. And Peter will give us a glimpse in the role that industrial areas can play in steering research and innovation towards the objectives of the Green Deal, the Net Zero Future, circularity. And during Peter's presentation, please type your questions in the chat. We will have 5 minutes after Peter presents, and we will try to go through as many of them as we can. So Peter, please.
Thank you very much, Maria. And I found the way you opened today really inspiring, and I feel already a community spirit here with the different indications where we come from, what is the interest for today. So, dear colleagues, good morning to all of you. Great that we are together. On this 24th of February, I think it's right to start with a thought about our Ukrainian friends. We stand together. EU Research and Innovation has also and is playing its role. We have opened a Horizon office in Kyiv, and yeah, I think it's good to start today by wishing the best for our friends in Ukraine. Sharp cut, Hubs for Circularity. This is a very important project concept, which is part of the Process for Planet partnership we launched in 2021, and is part of the strategic research agenda of this partnership. It's a concept which is new, but also very rational and logical. It's a new way of collaboration between industries from different sectors, industrial symbiosis. But it's more than that. It's also a different way of collaborating with regions, of collaborating with cities, of collaborating with citizens. And the idea is really to bring different actors together for one purpose, circularity. And we can build on good practice already in Europe. We have several regions which lead by example. And based also on our substantial support in Horizon 2020, we have a very good overview of the technologies and having at stake, and we have invested in these technologies. I would like to quote a few of them. They are taking from a report made on industrial biosymbiosis made by Klaus Sommer, who was heavily involved in the predecessor of the Process for Planet partnership. And so we talk here, when it comes to water, we talk about the separation, disinfection, and chemical heat pump technologies for industrial water. When it comes to data management, we speak, very important, of course, we speak about artificial intelligence supported data management. We speak about process technologies such as reactors, electrodes to obtain basic chemicals, for instance, from lignin. This biopolymer, more important than in the public attention than ever. Large-scale steam recompression to upgrade low-pressure steam to high-pressure steam. Thermal processes and heat exchanges. Waste heat to power and heat recovery. Biotechnological processes for CO2 conversion. So this is just one set of examples for technologies at stake. But these hubs will only be successful if they go beyond technology. It's a new way of working together. And we therefore have adopted this concept of symbiosis readiness level, which goes beyond the well-established concept of technology readiness level. And this is part of our conditions under the calls for topics of Horizon Europe. So, so that the actors engaged, you in these projects, can make the best out of this tool and cooperate in a more efficient way. And there are many obstacles. I don't want to downplay that. We require the right tools and such a strong community of practice. Briefly, let me come to the promises of these hubs for circularity. We reckon that they have a potential for 40 to 80% of energy recovery. So 15 to 55% of primary energy savings and much more grid flexibility. 10 to 40% of freshwater savings, and a very high potential actually up to 100% for material use. These are impressive figures, but they also show we are still far away from 100% closed loop and full circularity, net zero. I'll come to that in a second. But what is clear, these hubs can make a real difference, and you can count on our support. In the past, the Horizon 2020, we have invested 270 million euros in almost 30 industrial projects. And under Horizon Europe, more is to come, even more than that. And we are keen to see how these projects will deliver on the targets set out. I just mentioned. To this purpose, we sent out a survey to the coordinators, and we contacted 95 coordinators and hope to get rich feedback by early March, by 3rd of March. If you have seen this survey, and if you have not directed, please do help us. If you have something to contribute, contact us. Would be great to have your input, so that we know more of what we have achieved under the previous program, and yeah, that we can use also your community to get more clarity about past achievements and on what to build. Yeah, Maria, wanted to come in?
No, please continue. I thought you were just finishing, Peter. I'm sorry.
I hurry up. I still have a lot to say. So what is the time saying?
3 minutes. We have 4 minutes. Okay,
so I do it telegraphic. What really is at stake now is that we put industry at the heart of this process and the debate. And you have seen the Commission's net zero ambition, the Green Deal industrial plan for net zero. It is focused on the security of supply for the energy efficiency technologies, panels, wind blades, heat pumps, electrolyzers, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage. So the question is, to what degree you can hook on this new, very strong policy for industrial transformation, which will come with a completely new set of state aid framework for net zero, and which will come with specific regulatory facilitation. We think of asking member states to designate special zones, which would be impact assessed before, and then every production of these specific net zero technologies would get a very fast permit within such a zone and would get preferential treatment under state aid rules if there is a substantial increase compared to the previous CO2 reduction, for instance. So it comes with a lot of funding opportunities. It's a new ambition for industrial transformation, and there are many links between this forthcoming act. It will be a legislative proposal from us scheduled for mid-March, and funding tools, not necessarily under Horizon Europe. We think more about state aid, of course, under recovery and under the Recovery and Resilience Fund, the Innovation Fund, and Invest EU. So I still have 1.5 minutes, right? So because in addition to this forthcoming opportunity, I would like to share with you a bit of our expectations as regarding your community of practice, which is a very important step today, a step in your cooperation, our cooperation. Actually, we think your work will be pivotal to turn Hubs for Circularity into success. We know that there are quite a number of practical issues, and we need to learn and deal with them. And I think here in particular on IPR, how are you dealing with intellectual property? Will upcycling of materials be more difficult due to patents? We will publish next week a code of practice on the smart use of intellectual property assets. So that could also be something you could consider and make best use of. Then is the question of supply chain management. Can companies integrate information on industrial symbiosis into their supply chain management? Or do we need new interfaces for that? It's a question about incentives. What are the incentives for all players to share information and data? Are there issues? It requires trust. It requires a robust system. And can we make use of the new options and opportunities from artificial intelligence? We also need to look into how we can engage regions. How can we make best use of the waste regulation? And then do you need longer term perspectives, longer term contracts between the different players, and how to best shape the cooperation with cities? I mentioned the importance of urban hubs, in particular when it comes to recovering materials, raw materials. Urban mining could be very relevant also with a view to the forthcoming Critical Raw Materials Act. And then more issues, of course, and the digital platform you are launching today is a great tool to deal with these issues in the most effective and successful way. So there's, from my heart, a congratulation to all of you to engage in this platform. My wish that this becomes a robust, trusted, friendly, sometimes also funny cooperation to implement the solution for the objectives, the overarching objectives, and we know how important they are under the Green Deal for Europe as a whole, for our planet, for our geopolitical position, and for our environment. So I'm very much looking forward to turning these hubs for circularity into a success, convincing also private investors to support this fundamental transformation we need. And I would like to end with a special thanks to my colleagues. I don't do that usually, but Dominique Planton, who has been the spiritual director for this action. Dominique, I wanted to thank you in particular today for all you are doing for these hubs for circularity. Thank you. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Peter. And thank you, Dominique, and actually everybody in the room here has been pivotal for either from on the ground, either from policy areas, from all different angles. So that's a very good reminder what you said, Peter, that it's a community of practice. We're all in this together. We're trying our best to make it happen from different angles. And here is a question, the first question that is coming from the audience in the chat. It's quite lively. I have picked 3 of them that try to summarize more or less the meaning for on behalf of everyone, I hope. So we have, how should we see industrial urban symbiosis and regional circular economy? So it can instigate economic activity, environmental protection, societal change. What is the most important element of it, in your opinion, and how should we look at it? Should we look at it from a specific angle or more broadly and holistically? Mm-hmm.
Well, I really think it's the key is transformation to sustainability, and we know the urgency, not only environmental, but also in terms of our reducing our dependencies. But this cannot be successful if it's not including the societal aspects. And this is why I think it's quite good that we have specific actions in our projects to engage with citizens in these hubs and to have social innovation part of that. So I wouldn't want to rank, but I think the overall objective is quite clear. It is environmental transformation in the context of a competitive, prosperous Europe.
Thank you. Thank you. And here's a follow-up question on that, the role of all the different actors. So we have received questions related to the role that municipalities can play, essentially. Can cities act without the backup of a national regulation? Or would they act quicker? How would you see yourself, the role that these specific actors could play?
Yeah, we see them key, and I would really, maybe we have not yet explored all the channels. I see that also in this chat. There are strong networks of regions and communities. ICLE is one, the council you mentioned here is another one. I think that's very good, and perhaps that's something we can do together to engage with these players. I don't think that we need specific tools for that. They're quite active. We see that also under the Horizon mission for 100 carbon neutral cities, that mayors are very well placed to enter into contracts. So could also benefit from that, from their experience. And I see this is under the heading place-based innovation. The role of cities, of municipalities is very, very important. Also here for our circularity hubs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A very quick question, because you mentioned already some elements. How do you see this tension, which could still be there between sustainability and competitiveness for the process industries? How would you see the future of that? So is sustainability against competitiveness? Should be taken care of together, let's say, or linked somehow in our future activities? You also touched upon that earlier.
Yeah, so this commission, this von der Leyen commission, which put the Green Deal on top of its agenda, has changed everything. And our growth strategy is a sustainability, the Green Deal strategy. So I'm not belittling that the tension, that there are trade-offs, but our whole policy orientation is to turn sustainability into a competitive advantage. And we see that it creates jobs, it creates better jobs. There is a shift in jobs. We were also looking into the future of jobs, but I think you see from our policy that this is the orientation, and whatever we see is there are shifts, but with a net positive outcome in terms of competitive. It's really a global issue, and we have set the scene internationally. Interestingly enough, when we started with the Green Deal, it was not seen by other major economies like that. Now, I think you can see, and you've seen that certainly as well, that this narrative we started here in Europe, this objective is shared by many of our international partners. I see in the chat, Maria, if I can say that, also a question to regulation, and that is always also a question. Is a tension between our regulatory environment and competitiveness and transformation. And we don't have much time here, but very briefly, and with a bit of a risk of oversimplifying, smart regulation is always good for innovation, for research and innovation, and for competitiveness. Not end of pipe, but setting targets. We have seen recently, actually, that already the announcement of recycling targets for the textile sector has led to a significant increase in R&I investments in the field. So regulation, our Green Deal regulation is stimulating substantial in private investment, and that's right. And there is substantial regulation coming with the Green Deal in all sectors.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. And thank you for being with us here with the community of practice today. It's a very warm welcome as we're kicking off essentially a larger stream of activities. It's an honor. Thank you very much for your time. And actually, as we heard from Peter, we have a very holistic approach. I mean, that it's already happening from all sides. So we're talking about policymakers, we're talking about new skills, the role of different actors, the role of cities, the role of industry, social innovation, economic benefits, environmental impact. So it's all coming together under a holistic umbrella. And the role of each one of us is different in this mix. Yeah, the vision is one, but the role of each organization and individual could be different. So right now we're going to hear from experiences from on the ground and what different stakeholders are actually doing on the ground to reach the vision that Peter mentioned. We're going to hear 3 presentations in sequence, one after the other. The first one is from Professor Dr. Michael Schmidt from Covestro. So it's directly a practitioner in the space. We won't have questions straight after Michael's presentation, I should mention. Then we're going to hear from 2 more speakers. And then at the end, in about 15 minutes from now, we will address all the questions together. So in the meantime, as you will hear from the next 3 speakers, please post your questions in the chat. And right now I introduce Dr. Michael Schmidt. So Michael is the head of global innovation management of Covestro. He has been working for Covestro for the past 22 years. His current position is supporting end-to-end innovation, which means collaborating from universities on R&D down to commercializing innovation. And he will speak to us today about the chemical industry and the circularity vision of Covestro and how we can see that happening in practice on the ground. The floor is yours, Michael.
Perfect. So Maria, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Just checking whether you can hear me.
It's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, then also from my side, a very wonderful good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for having me today. And I would like to start my presentation, if you click once, by giving you a very short introduction of our company. So we are, our company name is called Covestro. We are a chemical company, and we are within the leading companies when it comes to producing and selling high technology polymers. We are a German company, but we have a very strong global footprint. So that means we have very strong assets on the ground, not only in Europe, but also in Asia Pacific and in North America. And very roughly, just to give you a magnitude in terms of what's our sales revenue, we have roughly about 16 billion euro sales revenue. And we achieve that with around about 18,000 employees, which are distributed all over the world. In terms of innovation, we always say that innovation has been a part of our DNA. And what does that specifically mean? We have a 3-pillar approach towards innovation. The first pillar is that we're saying we need to keep a strong track record of research and development. So that means for us, product development, application development, material solutions. But then we are saying innovation is much more than research and development, and that specifically translates into business model innovation and digitalization. And then we have a 3rd pillar towards our innovation approach, and that is saying innovation is everyone and everywhere. And that specifically translates then to collaborate in external innovation ecosystems in order to accelerate innovation. In terms of the products that we are producing and selling, we are producing, for example, polyurethanes and polyurethane-based coatings, adhesives and specialties and polycarbonates. So what that does now really mean in terms of make it more tangible. So right now I'm sitting on a chair and there is a cushion inside of the chair, and this cushion is made out of a polyurethane soft foam. I'm sitting in front of a laptop, and the laptop housing is made out of a polycarbonate blend. And if I would look now to my ceiling here, we have LED lamps, and the LED lamps are made out of polycarbonate. And if I would later jump into my car, then the headlamp lenses of cars, they're made out of polycarbonate and not out of glass anymore. So we are selling our products into a huge variety of industry sectors, as you can see here on this chart. If you please press once. In the next chart, I would like to introduce to you our company vision. And our company vision is to become fully circular. And on this chart, I have an illustration, a conceptual illustration with me, where on the one axis you see the energy input, and on the other axis you see processing steps. And the bubbles that we see here represent, so to say, a linear economy. I repeat, a linear economy for a chemical company. So in the chemical industry, still a big part of the materials are coming from oil and gas, which in our case means that we get from our suppliers feedstock materials, based on fossil fuels to a big extent. We convert them into our products, which we then sell to our customers, and the customers then make the applications, so the cars and the chairs and mattresses, laptops. So what happens with these kind of applications at the end of the use phase is that the materials are to a big extent still incinerated or they are disposed. So what is now our company vision to become fully circular? Please press once. First of all, we are working with partners so that at the end of the life cycle of applications, we get access to the suitable waste streams for us. And in that context, we are developing several kinds of recycling technologies, which allow us to bring back the raw materials to introduce them in circles. For us here, it's very important as a chemical company that we need to have a toolbox of recycling technologies. So in our case, it means, for example, mechanical recycling, but even more important, also chemical recycling technologies, innovative chemical recycling technologies. And the major difference between a chemical recycling technology and a mechanical recycling technology is that in a chemical recycling technology, this allows you to bring back the original chemical components of materials. If you press once, we are working at the same time on alternative drop-in solutions. So what does it mean? It means that, for example, we are working with bio-based feedstocks to eliminate using feedstocks that are coming from oil and gas. At the same time, you see here on this chart many different steps, which are processing steps. And these processing steps, they need energy. So that means for us, in our case, that we are also working on not only optimizing our energy usage, at the same time, we are also working with partners to continuously increase the share of renewable energies that we are using in our processing steps. If you press once, what you can see now being summarized here is the full approach towards our circularity concept. And it's based on 4 major pillars. I repeat, for us, we need to get access to more renewable energies in order to optimize the energy mix to make it more sustainable. Second is that we're working on alternative drop-in solutions or alternative feedstocks, for example, bio-based. Third, we are working on innovative recycling technologies for end-of-life solutions. And here again, we need to have a toolbox because there's no one size fits all. And what is even more important, we know that everything that you see here on this chart, this cannot be done by ourselves alone. So for us, the 4th pillar is to work with other industries, with other partners in what we call cross-sectoral collaborations. Please press once. What I would like to do now in the last few minutes is to show to you some real examples how we're doing that. And the first example that you see here is in the context of mattress recycling. You might know that in the year 2025, for example, in France, it will not be allowed to dispose mattresses anymore. And mattresses are, from a material point of view, they contain polyurethane soft foam, so same as the cushions in the chairs. What we have done several years ago already, we started with a technology development, a chemical recycling technology development, also supported by the European Union, which should allow to bring us back the original 2 chemical components of the polyurethane soft foams in mattresses. Now, technology development is one element, but what's even more important is that besides the technology for chemical recycling, you need to set up what we call end-of-life value chains, totally new value chains. And in our case, that means for us that we need to start working with partners, and we have done that already, which at the end of the day get us access to the disposed mattresses, collecting the mattresses, then dismantling the mattresses, crushing the materials, sorting them so that we get the right suitable feedstocks into our chemical recycling technology. So at the end of the day, we can reintroduce the same chemical raw materials that then the mattress formers can use to make mattresses again. If you press once, I have a second example with me, and this is pretty similar. In that case, we are talking about bringing rigid polyurethane forms in a circular economy approach. Rigid polyurethane foams, for example, you can see as insulation panels for houses, for example, but you also have rigid polyurethane foams as isolation materials for refrigerators. And here we are participating in an industry consortium that is called Circular Foam, which is also strongly supported by the European Union. And here we are working with more than 20 partners, consisting of for example, our own customers, but also then with universities and startups. And the main intention here is to create, as a kind of proof of concept, a small circular economy ecosystem that should allow to take back the rigid foams from appliance applications, but also from insulation panels, to sort them, and then to have the suitable chemical recycling technologies to again obtain the original chemical components, so that the original chemical components can be reintroduced into the same applications. What the second goal of this industry consortium is also to develop a kind of blueprint solution. So that means basically what we're trying to develop in a small scale with the 20 partners, to then also make recommendations where this kind of blueprint approach could be introduced in different parts of region in Europe. If you press once, I have the final example with me. And this brings us back to our own manufacturing area. So what you see, first of all, in this chart being displayed is our company commitment that we want to achieve. We want to become net zero in the year 2035 when it comes to our own greenhouse gas emissions within scope 1 and scope 2. But if you look to the picture, you see that chemical companies, they are always operating in chemical parks. So that means in a chemical park, you are never alone. And when it comes to achieving our net zero target for 2035, it's very much important that within chemical parks, which are integrated areas, that all the companies that are part in a chemical park, that they are optimizing how raw material streams are being circulated within a chemical part, but also to optimize the energy usage and to bring the energy usage towards renewable energies. And here we are a member of a project that is called Innovation Cluster at Chempark Leverkusen. And here the main purpose is exactly to optimize the raw material streams within a chemical park and the energy usage. And again, we cannot do that alone. We are one of the members that is part of a chemical park. Now, summarizing this, what were the major challenges for us? If you press once, please. So on our journey towards achieving our company vision to become fully circular, we, of course, we saw several challenges, and you see here some of the challenges summarized. It starts with the availability and also with the regulatory flexibility for a toolbox of processing technologies, because for plastics or for polymers, there will not be one process technology that can cover everything. At the same time, we have to get access to a stable supply of renewable energy. This is a very big topic, and also to secondary materials. So the right sorting and waste management processes, because at the end of the day, if you want to bring materials in circles, you need to have the right quality in order to have processes that are efficient and that you can scale. And the third topic here, of course, if you're working together with others, this triggers the willingness of your partners to invest. So that means in order to create whole value chains, there is a need to work with others that are willing to invest, that are willing to collaborate and to turn the needle. And with that, I would like to close my presentation, and I would like to thank you very much. And I would like to wish us all a very successful kickoff event for today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. And we're moving, as I said, we're moving directly to the next speaker for now. So we're moving to the Netherlands, where Wouter de Bak from LIFBV is going to show us another example of industrial urban symbiosis and collaboration. Wouter is an environmental engineer. He has experiences in the fields of sustainable water technologies, reuse of industrial flows, and recovery of raw materials. And he has been working in processes supervising multi-stakeholder collaboration and multidisciplinary collaboration. He will speak to us about today, as you see already on screen, about Symbiosis for Growth. He has been working as a facilitator in this setting, and it's a program coming from the south of the Netherlands. So Wouter, please take us there.
Yeah, thank you very much for the good introduction. So I will tell you something about Symbiosis for Growth, which is indeed a program, actually multiple projects, which have been running since 2018. So we're 5 years in already, and we've done a lot, focused in the south of the Netherlands. And the goal of the project is to realize industrial symbiosis cases between companies in the south of the Netherlands. And what we understand as an industrial symbiosis case, how do we define it, is that one company has a certain waste stream, which can range from water to rest energy, rest heat, to materials like metals or plastic or even organic waste streams, which another company can use as input material. So at least two companies working together, then we have an industrial symbiosis, preferably on they're close to each other. And how we approach this is to first, of course, identify which companies have which waste streams and which companies are interested in those waste streams. And we do that by organizing workshops and one-on-one talks with the companies. Then we insert that into a database of Synergy, which I will show you in a second. We create matches between these companies on the basis of the quantities, the volumes, and the qualities of the waste streams. And then after that, we don't stop there, because that's just a start, and we start helping those companies to realize these cases. And this leads to realized matches, which is the goal. So this is a brief overview of the area. This is the south of the Netherlands for the people who may living close to this. And this is a snapshot of the database that we're using, which is also being used in the Hubs4Circularity project, if I remember correctly. Which is a very well-designed database in which you can input all your resources and the resources that companies are interested in, and then you can very easily identify matches between those companies. And the more companies and resources that are in the database, the easier it is to find new matches. At the moment, we have around 200 companies in the database, more than 1,200 resources, and they're distributed in halves and ones. And halves are the resources that companies have, and ones are the resource that companies are interested in. So that's the basis of the matches. And more than 425 potential matches. It doesn't mean that all the matches have been realized, because we have only a certain amount of time. We're limited by time and capacity, so we choose which matches are the most potential, and then we start working on them and realize them. And the most simple matches are being done by the companies themselves, and the more complex matches, I support them, and we have some other colleagues who are supporting them on the ground also. I will give some examples of that. So that's how we work. We organize also workshops, of which you can see a picture here, in which the involved companies obtain matches at the table by simply saying which resources they have and which resources they're interested in. And what's interesting for me is that we always end up with lots of matches by at least having 15 or 20 companies around the table. And usually there are matches that you would never realize before between companies, which you would not see as a match if you would put them on paper. But in practice, they're being matched. So I will give 3 examples of matches or cases that we have realized. The first one is involved by a company in Zeeland. It's a producer of maize, which you can find in a supermarket, and they take off the front end and the back end of the maize, which creates a lot of waste material, which is going to the digester at the moment. But we found a company in Midden-Brabant, another region, which can take this material in as a basis for vegetarian meat. So, well, a lot of these maize residues is now being used to create maize burgers. This is an example of a producer of canned food, so canned vegetables and fruits. They have a lot of rest water, around 600,000 cubic meters per year, which has before was being discharged to a salt water body. But it's all fresh water that they're discharging, which is very much usable by agriculture in the surroundings of the company. So what we've been working on is to actually get this fresh water to the to being used as irrigation water by the companies, by the agricultural companies surrounding this this company. And that has also been set up and is working now, and half of the water is being used now, which is especially during the dry summers of the past years, which has been very important for these farmers. And the last example is an insect breeding company, insect production company, actually one of the largest in the world. And they're creating the black soldier flies. And this company asked us, like, we need agri-food residual material which we can feed the insects on, and they needed large volumes and very specific qualities. And we found a company called Oatly, which some of you might know, of the oat milk. They have a lot of oat residue. So you have the milk, but then you have the fibers, and the fibers didn't have a very sustainable end until now. And now these fibers, since very recently actually, are being transported to Protix, the insect production company. So the insects are being fed by oat fibers. And to conclude my story, what did we learn? Well, we learned a lot, and a few things I would like to highlight is first that the companies that we are helping, we're supporting, usually don't have enough time or the capacity to really dive into set up a good industrial symbiosis. They need to be inspired and they need to be supported. So it's very important that you have, as we call them, brokers. So people like me or my colleagues who call them, who visit them, who set up a project and start supporting them to realize these matches. Because also we're especially working with SMEs, not with the very large companies. Sometimes we do it, but usually SMEs. And well, those are typically companies with limited amounts of time and capacity for these kinds of things. And this is an open door, but successful realization starts with broad support and a good plan. If there's no support within the company, also higher up, so from the director, that is usually not going to work. So you should start with checking this: is there commitment, is there support from both companies, and then create a good plan. And what I said before is the database from Synergy works very well. I can recommend that. And maybe the most important thing is just don't overcomplicate things or theorize too much, but just start calling the companies, start visiting them, setting up meetings, start doing it, because it's not that complex or not that difficult, but you need to organize it. And that's the end of my story. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Wouter. So very nice to hear from the ground, essentially, and what are the learnings and what is the advice actually that practitioners give to the rest of us? Yes, it's good to share knowledge. Yeah, it's always bringing everyone forward. Thank you very much for that too. As the next speaker, we are finishing this session with Àngels Orduña. Àngels is the Executive Director of A.SPIRE, the European Association of Innovative Process Industries. And she's an expert, of course, in leading multi-partner, multi-country, multidisciplinary collaborations in Europe and beyond. And Àngels will introduce us to A.SPIRE and the processes for planet partnership and the future envisaged for the regions with a high process industry presence. So, welcome, Àngels.
Thank you very much, Maria. And thank you for the two projects to invite me today. It's really a pleasure. Let me put this a bit in context here. So first, what is Processes for Planet, which is this partnership that is funded by Horizon Europe with 1.3 billion euros to deploy, to support specific innovations for the process industry, but also the hubs for circularity. I'm not going to go very deep on the governance, but just very important that this public-private partnership is conformed by A.SPIRE, which is the Association of the Process Industry and Processes for Planet, representing the private side, and by the European Commission, represented especially by DG RTD, but also by DG GROW. And then this is the sectors that we are representing. We are representing 10 sectors, 8 of them from the energy-intensive industries, including chemicals, as Covestro, who joined here today, but others, but also engineering and water sectors as transversal sectors. And we organize our members in 6 working groups that you can see at the bottom of the screen, that all our members can join and contribute to develop these concepts of the hubs, or which are the research and innovation agenda points that we need to develop for the process industry. So this is in fact an important request from the Commission for us to set a partnership, right? They ask us to develop a strategic research and innovation agenda. In our case, that is for 2050, and Processes for Planet RIA includes 3 great ambitions, which are based on 3 important challenges. So first, the first challenge is the high impact on climate. So, and hence the ambition is to reach the net zero GHG emissions by 2050. So an important challenge is to drastically reduce the emissions, CO2 or GHG, from the process industries. Then the second challenge is the linear use of the resources. That is a trend. It's something settled in Europe, but worldwide, I would say. And then the goal is to get to this near zero landfilling and near zero water discharge. So to close the loops of the waste streams, of all the waste streams. The third challenge is on the global competitiveness of the process industries and the high amount of investments that they need to do. So the goal and the ambition is that the innovations contribute to the process industry having a GVA which grows quicker than the EU GDP. So we want to keep the jobs in Europe for sure. So our SRIA is based on these 4 innovation levers that you can see on the left: industrial urban symbiosis, process innovation, digitalization, and non-technological aspects. Process innovation requires a number of levers, including electrification, the energy mix, CCU, resources efficiency, and flexibility. The digitalization and the non-technological aspects for us are cross-cutting areas for these more technological aspects. And digitalization is a great, we see it as an accelerator. Our 3 includes these 14 innovation areas that you are seeing on the screen, and related to these 14 innovation areas, we have 36 innovation programs. So all the topics of Processes for Planet that are published, all the calls for proposals that are published under Horizon Europe for Processes for Planet are addressing these innovation areas and programs. So we call for these disruptive new processes to manufacture the materials for this drastic abatement of CO2 emissions, but also disruptive innovation on industrial urban symbiosis to upcycle bulk amounts of waste for eco-design of the materials that will become the products that we buy, as Michael was signaling, where we can find different materials influenced by chemical sector, but by any of our sectors. With the goal to reach real circularity. We don't talk about full circularity, we talk about real circularity, because not all the materials can be upcycled without creating a major impact in the environment. So this is our SRIA in a glance. So the innovation that we develop, that our projects develop under Horizon Europe, needs to move forward so that the innovations are deployed. And that's why we have these initiatives here, the first of a kind plans and the hubs for circularity. I will focus today on the hubs for circularity, but altogether, the goal is to reach these three ambitions and to roll out the technologies. Yeah. So let me focus now on the hubs for circularity. The idea of the hubs for circularity came out because we saw the process industries with this capacity to reintroduce bulk amounts of resources in the industrial system. And then we said, okay, but this is the changes that the European Green Deal is requesting are systemic. So we need the system, we need the ecosystem. Yeah, but it's very important. Somebody asked before in the chat, what is the difference between the hubs of circularity or the circular economy hubs that SICRI is developing? It's a strong difference. For us, the hubs of circularity need to include the process industry. It's where the process industry has a strong presence that we can make this real difference in the level of impact on circularity to close the loops. So, but we need the value chain, we need the SMEs, we need the academia, we need the investors, we need the public sector, we need a cooperation across everything. But and we need this business to territory plan. So we need to understand what are the needs in a given area so that the solutions, the industrial solutions are deployed. But it's very important to understand the hubs for circularity for us are a place where the innovations are developed and deployed at scale. So it's a place where the industrial urban symbiosis solutions, where the solutions for energy efficiency, for the renewables integration are deployed, developed and deployed. That's for us the hubs for circularity. Then what we see also is that we share these goals with the regions. So the collaboration with the regions and the cities is of course important, but we cannot do that without the process industry, because what we need is this full-scale industrial symbiosis, and this requires technology, technology, technology. And then of course it requires other aspects on the social and economy side. So let's very clear distinguish between the hubs of circularity, the circular economy, and the industrial urban symbiosis. Yeah, the hubs for circularity need to put the focus on upcycling, the use of the end-of-life products and materials as feedstock for industry, and on what are the innovations that are needed for this upcycling to happen at a scale and to close the different waste streams. The circular economy it's wider, right? It includes many other things like repair, reuse, refurbishing, but the impact is very different. So by reusing any material, any product, we are part of the circular economy, but the impact of upscaling is much higher to achieve the goals of the European Green Deal. And this upcycling needs to be done through industrial symbiosis or industrial urban symbiosis. But also the hubs need to consider the CO2 emissions reduction. So we don't see the hubs as only for the materials upcycling, but as a whole, very much of addressing the three ambitions that I have described before. So let's put in context also the hubs for circularity and the community of practice that these two projects, Hubs for Circularity Europe and Hubs for Circularity ECOP, are building, right? So A.SPIRE and P4Planet have a community which of members, of more than 190 members, with all our experts, with the permanent working groups, the transversal teams, with the A.SPIRE and P4Planet projects and Hubs for Circularity projects that are developing and delivering in Austria. Our community is the one who is collaborating with the Commission to write the topics, but also to review policies. Yeah. So the community of practice for us is the space, or should be the space, where the experts, the practitioners will share knowledge, tools, cases, best practices so that these hubs for circularity really become a widespread new business model across Europe. When we both achieve this together, we will have succeed. So A.SPIRE and Processes for Planet, together with the European Commission for sure, will support both the hubs for circularity by funding projects, by building the hubs for circularity concept further together with all our members, by discussing with the regions also, which also can be members and are members of A.SPIRE, by providing the spaces for discussion with them, by yearly projects and hubs of circularity forums. But then we will also collaborate for sure with the community of practice by setting this close collaboration with the two projects through joint events, joint communication activities, by being this umbrella of the collaboration between these two projects with the other A.SPIRE Before Planet projects, by connecting also with other projects or initiatives in which A.SPIRE is participating, like A.SPIRE Size, Set Plan, Action 6, or other that are in the pipeline. So I think I made it clear the hubs for circularity are very much led by the energy intensive industries and the process industries in general, but the collaboration with the regions and the municipalities are very important. But please do not make the mistake to think that the hubs for circularity are only the place where the knowledge is shared. The hubs for circularity need to be the place where the innovations are deployed, and the community of practice needs to be the place where the knowledge is shared. That would be my main message. There could be just one last thing, if I have time, Maria. There could be also, it's important to understand that the types of hubs of circularity can be very different. So I said that the presence of the process industry needs to be very clear there, because they are the ones that can reintroduce this waste turned into secondary resources into the system again. But then there can be areas like, I'm sorry, I'm from Tarragona, so let me promote my area. It's one of the chemical sites, the biggest chemical sites of the south of Europe. So this should become a hub for circularity, and this should become a hub for circularity with a great potential of reduction of the emissions. But then there are places in the Eastern countries, for example, in the Eastern Europe countries, where there will be maybe just one process industry plant, cement, for example, cement sector, and then there this could become specialized hubs for circularity, where they could be based on the construction waste upcycling, or others could become specialized hubs for circularity for plastics upcycling, for example. So this type of expertise is what needs to be brought into the table, but also the knowledge of where are the waste streams, in which waste streams we can make a difference. Yeah, and there I also expect a strong collaboration with the community of practice projects, so that we identify what are the hubs of circularity projects funded by Process for Planet doing, and which are the waste streams that are not being tackled by them and we should act on, and so that we can promote and find the right next projects in the next 3 years. Thank you very much, Maria. That's all from my side by now.
Thank you, Àngels. So I will need to inform the audience that we're a bit behind with time. So actually, a lot of the questions we see coming through the chat, they have been responded in the meantime by the speakers, but there's a few questions that are around, for example, specific question for processes, for Covestro, for companies. Then there's a request to connect to others that you are putting in the chat. If the slides will be shared, definitely, that I can already answer. And you're also asking questions that might require spaces where we can interact again with our speakers or these types of entities in any case. And so for that one, I would actually propose right now to pass to the last presentation for today. because a lot of these questions are going to be answered. So we're going to hear right now from Rachel Lombardi and Ron Weerdmeester about the Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice project, which is essentially providing spaces and connections and information, and it's going to perhaps answer a few of the questions you had already posted in the chat. Rachel is the Chief Executive of International Synergies. She's a published author on industrial symbiosis and sustainable cities. She has worked with practitioners, companies, policymakers around the globe, driving also thought leadership on industrial symbiosis topic. And she has also chaired the SEN processes for the current pre-standard used for industrial symbiosis. And Ron is working at P&O. He's a senior manager and partner. He has been for 25 years supporting SMEs, multinational and research organizations on their innovation journey, be it from strategy to implementation, to training, to funding also. Ron has also supported the development of the A.SPIRE, the first A.SPIRE roadmap, and research agendas for the biotech and the water sector. Ron and Rachel, please take us through what to expect from the Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Maria. And thank you very much for the other speakers for an excellent setting of the stage with, I think, already some very inspiring examples of what we are talking about when we talk about industrial symbiosis, industrial urban symbiosis, and the potential of impact. So I think now it's time to dive into the community of practice, of which we're having our first public event. And we're very proud and excited that we have such a large audience, and we can already see from the different questions in the chat that people are very energetic and motivated to contribute. So we would like to stimulate that. First of all, we want to tell you a bit more about what our thoughts are about the community of practice and what we think the community of practice is, should be, and can offer to all the participants and all the stakeholders that will be partaking to this joint journey. Rachel and I will do a challenging job of a dual presentation, but we're starting to get used to that nowadays. Let me see if we can move to the next slide. Yes. What we will do, we'll tackle three things. First of all, give you a bit of introduction to the community of practice itself and what we think it contains. We'll give you a quick sneak preview of the knowledge platform that we have been working very hard on over the last months based on requirements analysis, and see what that will look like in its first launch and its further developments afterwards. And we'll tell you that the knowledge platform will be launched probably in the beginning of March. And then we'll talk about the breakout sessions. One of the main purposes of today is to get input from you, our audience, our participants, to the community of practice on what you actually need from the community of practice. We can have our ideas. We have our ideas, obviously, and we've been working on that for 6 months now already. But more important is to hear from you what you are looking for, so that we can work towards a good target. So do a presentation, so I'll hand over to Rachel for the first part.
Super, Ron, thank you very much. So adding my welcome to everyone to this very exciting event. We're delighted to see so many folks interested in and giving their time to find out more. We know we've got people who are new to the journey, and we've got people who've been on the journey, and that's exactly the mix that we were hoping to get. So I'm going to just kick off with introducing the people that are behind the development of the community of practice that you guys will become the core of. And we'll just tell you a little bit about who's behind the scenes. So Ron, myself, our teams, and what we see as the path to what needs to be a stakeholder-led journey. As Ron said, we've got some ideas, but the primary purpose of today is to get your ideas, to make sure that we're responding to the needs of the folks who are on the ground doing stuff. So Ron, please. This has already been mentioned, and it's a bit of a formality, so I might go briefly. But there was a Horizon call to establish this community of practice with, I'll bring your attention to the 4 bullets: the sustainable community building, IT knowledge platform, what we're discussing today, consolidation and creation of available knowledge, which you'll see when Ron goes through how we are starting to populate the platform already, development of a KPI toolkit and independent evaluation of the H4Cs. We are working with the H4C demo projects funded under a parallel called Twin Transitions 0114 to be piloting KPIs. Those of you who are interested in the development of KPIs for Hubs4Circularity, please feel free to put your details in the chat and we will engage with you as this goes forward. And of course, promoting the concept as Àngels has laid out for us. The interesting bit, Ron, with the next one, please, is that in this case, the Commission has funded 2 separate CSAs to establish a single Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice. And so we've got twice the elbow grease going to develop this as a dynamic and engaging community. And what you see here are the 2 sister projects, H4C Europe, where Ron is the coordinator from PNO, and H4C ECOP, where I am the technical lead and ISQ is the coordinator. And I know Marco Estrada is with us today. And most important takeaway from this slide, 2 things. One, that we recognize we are existing within a community of founding members, industry, citizens, NGOs, and so on. And this context, we know from our experience ourselves, is a very important determining factor of what we can and can't accomplish. The second thing, of course, is the email address on the bottom for those who don't have a chance to put something into chat today or wish to share with their colleagues to get in touch. Please, the info is at the bottom. Ron, over to you.
I was muted. Yeah, and then later on, you will also, of course, see opportunities to join the platform. So apart from the email address that Rachel was highlighting, you can, of course, also contact us through that already now. So 2 projects, as Rachel explained, and a joint development path. We've been working quite hard in the beginning of our projects to establish this joint development path, so that we collaborate and join forces towards the creation of the community of practice and everything that it needs. So the first thing we did was started looking at the stakeholders that are our audience. We've been working on some formal stakeholder mapping, looking at all these organizations that have been engaged in industrial symbiosis, industrial urban symbiosis, and circular economy, and Hubs4Circularity, also using AI-enabled data mining. And we already have a list of more than 500 stakeholders that are relevant for our community of practice, which we, of course, use to reach out to as part of our community building activities. We're also using this audience to collect and discuss the requirements of the community of practice, or the stakeholders in the community of practice. We've been discussing with different hubs, with examples such as Kalundborg, Smart Data Resources, some industrial parks, but also individual organizations on what they think the community of practice should do. So we use that. We've already started using that to design our community of practice, and for instance, also the knowledge platform, which we will show you later. We have started already together, the 2 projects, do some stock taking of what is out there. So collect tools, educational materials that are abundantly available on industrial symbiosis and industrial urban symbiosis, for example. Look at good practices, etc., such that we can start populating our knowledge platform and start sharing all those good materials and all those good practices and useful resources that are available out there within the community of practice, which is, of course, one of our main purposes. During the course of the project, we will also do some deep dives on specific challenges and the required solutions to accelerate the Hubs4Circularity. We will set up specific working groups on specific topics. This is work in progress, where we'll invite practitioners and experts on specific elements related to our H4C challenges and see what solutions could be and how we could actually move forward. Another activity we'll be developing jointly and has already started is to develop the KPIs for measuring maturity levels of industrial symbiosis and also of hubs for circularity as a concept. We will, in the course of the projects, assess regions and industrial clusters to look at their H4C potential, also in line with what Àngels was just indicating. It's trying to identify what is the potential for the hubs for circularity concept in Europe. And we will be developing roadmaps for further project development and provide project development support. And in parallel, of course, the building of a sustainable community. All these are activities that serve that purpose. And yeah, the community is only vibrant when there are activities in this community ongoing. So that's one of our key purposes, to stimulate that and make sure that you're engaged. So in the next slide, we'll highlight some of the ideas that we have of what we should be proposing as the two projects to the community of practice in 3 blocks. One is all the activities we think we need to put in place to engage the community of practice itself. The second block is what you will find on the platform, where you're going to access to knowledge and tools. And then the third block is a number of services that we are already starting to provide, and we are planning to provide to a number of stakeholders in the community of practice. So starting with one of the most important aspects of the activities that we will be doing is engaging the community. Of course, like this event we are already organizing today, we will have other activities where we will facilitate, organize, and stimulate the engagement of the stakeholders. So we'll do workshops, events, expert groups where we connect the H4C practitioners and experts and give you the opportunity to start sharing that knowledge and those experiences that are necessary to overcome bottlenecks, accelerate the all these activities that are needed to contribute to the Green Deal objectives and the net zero economy. All these activities will be supported, these connecting activities will be supported by a number of functionalities on the platform. We'll have a searchable member database. So if you haven't registered, please do so that people can in the future also connect with you. There will be discussion fora and working groups on specific H4C topics. Of course, your input is going to be essential to understand what kind of topics we will need to be dealing there with, and also your active participation to those fora and working groups is of course very much appreciated and needed. We will also have a feature in the platform which will allow for matchmaking innovation challenges and technological or solutions to solve innovation challenges related to industrial symbiosis and industrial urban symbiosis, to accelerate the deployment of industrial symbiosis in the market. Then, if you go to the knowledge platform, we already have identified a number of knowledge items that you will also see when I present the sneak preview of our platform. Of course, case studies, examples of which we already saw some in the previous presentations, are very inspiring. So we believe that it's a very useful element of our platform to have a number of examples and look what are the opportunities of industrial symbiosis. We're leveraging on some previous projects as well in our stock taking exercise. One of them was Scalar, which some of our project partners were participating, where they already identified 100 IS opportunities looking at different resources, side streams from one industry, which can become a resource for others as a source of inspiration for others to maybe replicate. We'll also be looking into skills profiles and training blueprints, which have been developed by previous projects. For instance, the A.SPIRE size project we have been discussing with, where they have been looking into specific skills profiles for industrial symbiosis and energy efficiency, and looking into available training material, which will also be made available at a later stage. The platform will have a number of guides and manuals for cities, for regions, for industries, for communities, and for the hubs themselves to facilitate the acceleration of the Hub for Circularity concept. Self-assessment tools will be made available for organizations and hubs. We'll have searchable databases on previously funded projects, patents, and papers. This will already be available on the first launch. Quite a large database where people can look for examples, technologies, and partners. We'll analyze several of these projects on what are the relevant tools and knowledge and results that can be reused within our community and make them available. And last but not least, we'll work on a funding guide. Of course, funding and finance is not one of the least important aspects to accelerate and reach our goals. So we'll make some knowledge available through the guide, but also some services related to funding and finance. And I give the floor to Rachel to go over the different services that we think would be useful for you.
So thank you, Ron. Again, the three different boxes, right? So we've got the actual engagement in the top left, the tools and knowledge that you will find on the platform on the bottom left. And now we're touching on services, so places where the Hubs for Circularity Community of Practice partners will be reaching out to those interested parties and to the 0114 demo projects that were funded as well, with training and support available over these next 4 years, or 3.5 now that we are active. We'll of course also be looking at some of these things that you see on the screen in all three boxes as elements of a sustainable business model for ourselves going forward. So that bears saying. Perhaps again, because I know that we're running behind, I won't read through the different boxes, but you've got them on the screen. And if there's anything in there that resonates with people, we'll ask you to please put something into the chat. But because we're talking about, Ron, next one, please, both a community of practice, which are the people doing stuff, and the platform that hosts the communication, the interaction, and the knowledge. We would just very briefly like to say a word about how we're seeing this evolve, because we've got to get the people as well as the information on the web. So our initial phase now is launching the very first content on the platform, and Ron has mentioned some of these elements already. This should be live for you. We're hoping for next week. You might give us a couple of days wiggle, but it's imminent. And this is, again, information that's pushing out. In the second phase, then, we're building on the content and interaction. So in addition to what's already out there, we're looking at that searchable members database, where when you come and register on the platform and in the community, you can give permission for people to be able to find you. And of course, setting up discussion for the kinds of things that have been very lively in the chat. I've been watching the exchange of experience, and that's exactly what we are hoping to be stimulating for this community, as well as some further content, the case studies and tools and so on. Then we're going to be moving into essentially a 4-monthly update process. So you will continue to see the platform developing, and therefore the community, elements of the community also continuing to develop as we hopefully are in a position to be responding to your needs. So some of those services additionally coming online, some are active already and people have been contacted directly with outreach, but adding on, again, more interactive features and more services. So and some of the things that we're seeing from you today, obviously we're good, but we're not that good, won't be on the next week's launch, but we certainly will be looking to integrate those elements in the phase 2, which is scheduled for July. So back to Ron then, please, for an overview of the knowledge platform as it stands. Thank you.
And I was mute again. So I'm conscious of time, so I'll move forward. Now you have seen what kind of content, items and services and tools we want to make available. Let me just give you a quick view of what that may look like and how you can register. First of all, I wanted to say that of course, the Hubs4Circularity Community of Practice website is already available. You can already join the community. Many of you already did. I think we already have several hundreds of people that registered. And for those of you that are in this audience and would like to be part of the community of practice, please go to the website, click join the community, and you will find this very simple form to fill out, such that once we actually go live, you will be having the opportunity to go into the knowledge platform itself. So what will that look like? Well, we'll have a public part. This is a sneak preview of the first page, that what the first page may look like. We already give you some information on the platform itself, of course, but also some results of previous projects such as Scalar. We see here a few nice maps of the density of industries and hotspots, of potential hotspots for industrial symbiosis potential in Europe. So those kind of information will be made available. For those that are registered, that register on the platform, you will go into a next stage of the platform. You will enter it, and then there will be knowledge available for different types of audiences, as you can see on the slide. So from technology providers, industries, public authorities, educational organizations, and facilitators of Hubs4Circularity. We will already see a number of knowledge items, which you also saw in our previous slides, available at the first launch. So IS opportunities, skills, something about skills in education, the results of analyzed industrial symbiosis, industrial urban symbiosis projects with a number of useful resources. And you will also find searchable databases of patents, papers, and projects. These are already pre-filtered databases on the topics of industrial symbiosis, industrial urban symbiosis, and circular economy. Those numbers are indicative. We made a first check on how many those are, but it's quite a large database of available resources that you can search for yourself on our platform. Just to give you a few examples, this is the page on Scalar's 100 most promising industrial symbiosis synergies. If you open it, the screen will automatically populate with those 100 opportunities. It will appear in tiles, but you can also filter them on sectors, resource type, and elements. So let's say you are from the cement sector and you want to see what kind of opportunities there are from these hundreds. Then you can filter it on the cement industry, and then the tiles related to the cement industry will pop up, and it will give you information on the type of resources that could be available. Here's an example from the potential to recover aluminium oxides from non-ferrous metal slag processes to provide to the cement sector, who actually needs that for cement production. It provides, as you can see also here on the slide, in many cases, information on what the amount of resources that are available in Europe, and gives you also some indication of potential for industrial symbiosis and resource efficiency. On the project side, another example, we have already identified and analyzed a number of previously funded projects. This is a process that will be ongoing as for the synergies, so these will continue to populate. Also here you can search and filter on sectors, on keywords, and also here you have the tiles with particular projects, particular projects, and each of these projects we are in the process of identifying what are actually very useful results that can be made available for other parties in our community of practice. So reports, tools, guidelines, relevant technologies, and knowledge. That's how we have categorized them. This may be updated. And you see here an example of the Corrales project, which is in our database. And you see that in the text, you will find technologies in this case, but there's also text on reports, knowledge, tools, and guidelines if it is made available by these projects. You can also search those on the left side in the menu if you're looking for guidelines, you can click guidelines, and it will pop up. Of course, in the first launch, this is still going to be relatively limited, but we will intend to populate that during the project in the 4-month iterations that Rachel mentioned before. So that is a sneak preview. So let's hope Rachel is right within 1 week, or otherwise by the beginning of March. We're pretty sure that we will be able to launch that.
Thank you.
Last part of our session. Yes.
Yeah, last part of our session as succinctly as possible. You've seen that we have across the 2 consortia that are building this single community of practice, quite a few ideas of what we think is of value to those of you who are out there trying to actually get this stuff done. Ron's mentioned that we've got something like 500 registered users already to the platform and the community, and I encourage everyone to please register and join us for updates and so on. Visit the website. But the real purpose of today is to give you guys a chance to give us your opinions on what would be of most help. What's your experiences? What's worked? What hasn't? And how can a community of practice function on the ground? What does it need to do to be of interest and value to you, such that we end up with a lively, engaged community? Because that's the objective. It's not simply to have another platform with information. It's to have a lively, engaged community that's interacting with the fora, with the discussions, with sharing knowledge. So Ron, over to the next one, please. So the rest of what we're going to do today, after a very brief break, which might be a very, very brief break, is divide you into 3 breakout rooms, which are roughly structured as you see on the screen. The first one we've heard from Dr. Dröll. We've heard again through the other conversations the importance of regions and cities as setting the context and enabling these kinds of activities to take place. So we've got one room focused on enabling the regional circular economy that will be for sharing those kinds of lessons learned and challenges. The middle one on implementing industrial symbiosis focused on those of you who are the haves and the wants in ISL's language. You have the resources and you're looking for the resources and you're implementing at the coalface. What are the challenges that you're seeing and how can we be supporting your activities? And then finally, the third one on the activity of facilitation, as Wouter de Boek presented to us earlier, that activity of facilitating that honest broker role for the hubs for circularity, whether they be nascent or existing. So we're going to ask that everyone choose one of these rooms. Please don't worry too much about which one you're in, because the structure is the similar across them. We want to hear about experiences, challenges, what's helped you on your journey, and how can the community of practice and the platform be supporting these journeys for everyone. And then the next one, please. Toward the end of that breakout session, we're going to have a link show up in the chat that will enable you to express your opinions, to give us some indication of interest on the different areas that we have mentioned across those 3 pillars that Ron and I did the show on. And we ask you to weigh in on helping us prioritize and focus, and of course, any other services. So have we missed something completely? That's also important for us to be hearing from you. After that part, after you've been put into the form or given the link to the form, we'll be coming back into the plenary to hear a very brief statement from each of the 3 groups. So again, if you're in one but curious about another, you'll be able to get some input from them. And then we'll close down with some next steps from the community of practice partners. So with that, then thank you again for coming today. Thank you for signing up to the platform, and I hand back over to Maria to get us into our breakouts.
Thank you very much, Rachel, Ron. So there's a lot of activity, I should say, first of all, in the chat, and people are responding to each other. There's questions that are being responded by the speakers. There's a lot of us connecting already to each other. So just to say that this is beautiful to see, and this is actually also the purpose of this event and the whole community of practice throughout its duration with multiple tools, as we just saw, yes. So there's going to be more of that. To tell you that we are going to save the chat, so the information you post there and your requests are going to be taken care of. And we have planned several activities throughout the years to connect and to interact again with the same people in similar spaces or in different settings, essentially. Yeah. So this is only a start. And the first interaction we're going to have, it's in the breakout room straight after. So you have heard a lot from us today, and we need a short break, all of us. So we're going to go now into a short break of about 3 minutes. It's like a song's duration, let's call it. And then we're back. And after we're back, as Rachel said, we're going to split into breakouts and we're going to discuss in smaller settings. And that's where we would like to, we're longing essentially to hear from you today. So thank you very much for the first part. Let's go for a 3-minute break, get water, coffee, tea, and we are back in 3 minutes to continue with the breakouts. Thank you. So I will now go into the last slide we have for today, which shows the next steps, yeah, upcoming events and activities. I mentioned before a few times that we're going to have spaces, virtual spaces, perhaps in the future we'll see about physical spaces, online spaces for sure. So the knowledge platform, there's spaces where we can all exchange at different points in time and depending on our different interests, yeah. So first of all, the knowledge platform. The first release is coming, as we heard before, now in March, start of March. And then the second release, we're going to see it in July of this year. The knowledge platform will be online, so there will be a space there where we can already exchange knowledge and discuss and see a few things actually, or retrieve knowledge essentially in the first versions. At the same time, we have spaces for discussion. So we are looking at different groups of people with different needs, perhaps at the start, then we're coming back all together at certain points in time. So we have the Regions and Cities Advisory Panel, more focused on regions and cities in March. And this is a setting that it's going to also perhaps grow in the future. We're still now looking at the first iteration of all these spaces, I would say. Then we have knowledge exchange workshops. There is a very strong, also today we saw it, a very strong ask for exchanging knowledge and learning from our innovation mistakes, innovation mishaps, innovation successes. So we have planned a series of knowledge exchange workshops for the community of practice in the future, once or twice per year, perhaps depending on the topics that appear and our wishes. We're looking at workshops working on collaborative business modeling. Very important, business modeling and business cases were mentioned a few times today. We have workshops that keep on disseminating our results at specific points in time also, of course. We have workshops where we gather insights and experiences, and we're transforming them into policy recommendations to get there quicker, as we discussed also with Peter Dröll this morning. And more or less, that's it. That's the plan only now we have for this year. So there's more coming in the next few years. So the project is 4 years total. We are now within our first year. So you will see more coming. So in order to keep constantly updated and how you can get involved and the latest news, where you can meet us, where you can meet some of us, all of us, all these different spaces, the connections to CCRI that were discussed in the chat quite vividly today. This all you will be able to receive in your mailboxes, and if you are registered under our website to the community of practice and to the knowledge platform. So we would welcome all of you to do this, and then we're in contact through that channel for a start, and hopefully we're going to see you soon in person, online, and similar events pretty soon actually. And please use also you can use our standard mailbox, info@H4C, so you can contact us at any time. We are behind it, and we're looking forward to hearing what you think. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully see you soon in any form.